Huda, a light in every home.
We shall visit majestic halls.
The Philippines archipelago consists of 7,000 islands, and they are home to 80 million people speaking over 100 dialects. For 4 centuries, this country was formerly colonized by the Spaniards and later by the Americans. The colonial legacy had vast influence on Filipino way of life. In fact, the Philippines was called after the Spanish King Philip. However, Islamic influence had earlier taken root here. In the 13th century, 3 headmen from Brunei visited the Panay Island to establish the Federation of Madhya, which includes Hantik, Irong, Irong and Aklan. For the first time, calm was restored in these places. When Kalantiao Canon, the Philippines' first written constitution, was introduced. The ruling system was based on Brunei's customs and Islamic laws. However, in 1571, the Spanish colonial master forbade the population from embracing other faiths but not Catholicism. Laws to prevent religious conversion were strictly enforced, and the death sentence was carried out against those who dared to defy. Frightened, the converts escaped from Luzon and took refuge in the Muslim stronghold of Mindanao. However, those who chose to stay suffered immensely, and they were no longer allowed to practice their faith of choice. Before the Spaniards came, this city was ruled by King Sulaiman and King Matanda. Together, they relied on Islamic laws to instill peace and tranquility among their people. Trading was encouraged by Manila became the region's biggest port. However, with the arrival of the Spaniards, they sought to undermine the achievement made by the Malay Sultanate. On top of their agenda was the erasing of all historical evidence relating to the Islamic settlement and its influence. Today, rapid development taking place along the Pasig River only worsened whatever traces of Islam heritage left in the area. The river is far cry from its headache, and occasionally boats still sail through it. Nevertheless, commercial activities are still carried out on the banks of this river, and it provides sufficient livelihood to the people living nearby. Every day, a hive of activity takes place as the boats laden with agricultural produce and timbers from the hinterland arrive to trade, and they will return home with the essentials to sell. Needless to say, the experience and expertise gained through centuries of sailing eventually gave birth to a competent breed of Malay seafarers. The captivating Lake Lanao in Mindanao was once a fertile ground of Islam under the rule of the Maguindanao Sultanate. Centuries ago, this region was a target of a Spanish attack to weaken the influence of Islam. At this waterfront, the ruins of a fort can still be seen. It was used by the Muslim Sultanate to withstand the onslaught of the Spaniards. This was one of the regions which the Spanish failed to conquer, even after 2 massive attacks. The first attack was in 1640. It ended with the retreat of the Spaniards. 250 years later, the Spaniards planned another attack. An armada was brought down from Manila in 1891. Malabang was made the operation headquarters in the preparation to attack Lanao Lake. The Spaniards burnt all the crops of the locals, and the last attack went haywire. resulting in the Spaniards retreating once again, never to come back. So strong was the faith that neither the Spaniards nor the Americans were successful in making inroads here. The sacrifices of these people against the enemies of Islam will always be remembered by the people of Mindanao. Manila, the capital of the Philippines. It is located on the island of Luzon. It is a vibrant metropolitan and the country's main trading center. Manila was first established by Islam rulers from Johor and Brunei, before the arrival of the Spaniards. The name Manila was said to have originated from an Arabic word, fi amanillah, meaning under Allah's protection. Today, the people of the Philippines enjoy great leap in the fields of politics and economics. However, it is the freedom of religion that characterizes its people in the Philippines today. Amidst the bustle and hustle of the city, there is a concentrated effort to uphold the sovereignty of Islam. This is the office of the Islamic Missionary Council, one of the 89 Islamic organizations in the Philippines. This is Manila's Grand Mosque. Construction of the city's first mosque began in 1966 and was financed entirely by contributions by Muslims living in the city. Next to the mosque is the Manila Institute of Islam, a learning center for Muslims. Meanwhile, outside Manila, a more formal Islamic education is taking place in madrasa like the Tahfidh al-Quran. Often after prayers, the students usually love a game of basketball, the most popular game in the country. Then they will concentrate on learning about Islam. Fortunately, the captivating landscape provides a soothing effect for those caught in this mind-weary process. Interestingly, the establishment of formal madrasa started at Lanao Lake by Sheikh Muhammad Siddiq. In 1938, using the name Kamil al-Islam Mad al-Ulum. In this curriculum, the Islamic studies are taught, together with English in keeping with the country's Education Act. However, the curriculum was similar to private madrasa initiated by Sheikh Ahmed Bashir, under the pseudonym Mahad Mindanao al-Arabi from the Marawi Islamic Association. Today, there are 35 private madrasas in the Lanao Lake district itself. Graduates from these private madrasas can further their studies at the King Faisal Islamic Center, at the University of Mindanao. This thriving Muslim community is a result of centuries of cultural and religious molding that shaped today's Mindanao. Today, education has benefited and strengthened all levels of the community. The establishment of the Mindanao University in Marawi also marked the end of a bloody conflict between the Muslims and Christians. Thanks to this peaceful existence, the younger generations in Mindanao can now pursue a better future in earnest. The Philippines government and the representatives from the Islamic Autonomy region are also eager to solve any outstanding dispute. They hope to achieve this by raising the education standards and the living conditions of the local community. Only through narrowing the gap between different economical levels can there be success in eradicating religious differences The situation today is vastly different now. The Muslim students receive a free education from the government, including scholarships from the Islamic Development Bank of Riyadh. There is also a center for memorizing Quran, a contribution by the Saudi Arabia government. Other countries like Malaysia also pledged to establish a center for Malay literature studies, with the hope to unite the Malay race and the Muslim community in Mindanao. This is also an effort to popularize Malay language and to be re-establish its role as the region's main language. The landmark of this town is the Marawi Mosque. Marawi town is the capital of Lanao del Sur in the Mindanao archipelago. All of its inhabitants are Muslims from the Marano and Iran Malay. For the Malaysian community here, rice is the staple food. It is also their main produce and important livelihood for the locals. About a quarter of the Philippines' paddy fields are found in Mindanao. They contribute almost the same portion of the country's rice output. However, thanks to the Spaniards, the locals are also fond of their breads. Another popular gourmet delight is seafood from the Maro Bay, and the locals love to eat their fish grilled. The region is the largest fishing ground in the Philippines, contributing 25% of its total fish caught. Fishing not only provides a healthy supplement of protein, but it is also an important source of income for the locals. Walking among the shops in Maranao, visitors will find traditional Malay weaponry like the kris, made in the same ancient ways like the rest of the region. The craftsmen here are skillful, and they rely only on the knowledge passed down through their ancestors. One of them is Abdul Manugankar from the village of Raya. He has spent 2 months on this kris and used different types of metal including 14-karat gold and silver. After much effort, a beautiful wavy bladed kris is formed. The kris from this village is famous because it is made of highest quality, and it is sought by many aristocrats from Malaysia and Brunei. Metal artwork is also a specialty of Maranao, and the main creative force of this intricate art is Sadat Arif. Like most of his crafts, this armor vest is made of copper. During the medieval time, copper armors were worn by Malay warriors to protect them against the Spanish bullets. It became the symbol that represented the sovereignty of the Maguindanao Sultanate in their struggle against the Spanish colonization. But now its usefulness has changed and it has become a favorite among traditional art collectors. In this far remote region, the villagers have also perfected other distinctive handicrafts like cloth weaving to support their merged incomes. For almost 30 years, Haja Salama worked hard to earn her living by weaving traditional costumes, songket clothes, praying clothes, and Arabic inscriptured clothes. Today, her resourcefulness has cultivated a blooming cottage industry, which will ensure that the legacy of Maranao cloth weaving will continue into the future. The beautiful Lake Lanao district epitomizes the elegance of Malay heritage in the region. The exquisite creativity of the natives, the charm of Lanao Lake and the fertile soil of Mindanao, Luzon and Visayas, reflects the beauty of the solemnity that Islam propagates, and also reflects the quest to revive and enrich Islam throughout the whole of the Philippines.
We shall visit majestic halls, charity houses, archaeological sites of all civilizations here and there. La 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 la, la 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 la.
These central volcanic mountain ranges spread from the east to the west of the island of Java and provide the people with a fertile land to work on. Some of the Java's volcanoes are still very active today. This geography has influenced the local people, whose lives depend on farming. This tea plantation in West Java thrives on the fertile volcanic soil, formed from countless eruptions over thousands of years. The rich soil is not just a blessing, but it also gave birth to some of the earliest civilizations in Java. In the 8th century, harvested rice was the main source of revenue, which paid for the construction of the Borobudur temple. The temple was built in the year 780 AD. Islam began its foothold in Java through the seafaring forts in the northern coast of Java. Here is the earliest location of the first government and the civilization in Java. It was formerly known as the port of Sunda Kelapa. Now the port serves mainly the Bugis schooners from southern Sulawesi. The name Sunda Kelapa was incorded since the 10th century. The area was later renamed Jakarta, soon after the joint Islamic forces from Demak, Cirebon and Banten, under the leadership of Raja Fatahillah, captured it in 1527. Here lies the old town of Jakarta, and over there is the city of Jakarta. Jakarta has come a long way since its independence 50 years ago. Today, with the progress making a huge leap in the city, it too spurred the arrival of many Indonesians from all over the archipelagos. With independence in 1945, almost 200 tribes in over 27,000 islands finally were united under a new republic. This is Jakarta's main icon, Menara Monas. The tower was built in commemoration of the freedom achieved by Indonesia after 300 years being subjected under Dutch colonialism. This 137-meter tall structure is located right in the middle of Jakarta's Golden Triangle. With so many people arriving in the city, it has created a serious density problem. Today, it is estimated that there are 9 million people in Jakarta alone, out of the 200 million in the whole of Indonesia. Bekan hari, a common trading practice found all over the Southeast Asia archipelago. Twice a week, tents of over a kilometer long are set up. This form of trading in these makeshift stalls begins at 5 p.m. and ends at about midnight. Not too far from the national monument is the Istiqlal Mosque, Indonesia's state mosque. This 5-story high mosque is the biggest in Southeast Asia. It is capable of accommodating over 100,000 worshippers at any one time. The notion to build the mosque first came in 1950, and it took 26 years to make it a reality. The cornerstone was placed on the 24th of August 1961, by Indonesia's first president, Sukarno. However, it was only officiated on the 22nd of February 1978. Indonesia is the world's largest Muslim country, and the construction of this gigantic mosque is therefore appropriate for the huge population. The civilization in Java differs with the one in Sumatra. A pre-Islam empire, Sriwijaya, once ruled here some 1030 years ago, and its influence spread over many territories in Southeast Asia. Palembang can be vaguely seen from Kuntang Hill. Palembang is the center of the earliest Malay government in Southeast Asia. Today, Palembang is the state capital of southern Sumatra, and Sumatra's second largest town. Much of its early history can be found on the banks of the Musi River, which flows through Palembang. It is here on the Musi River where many sea quests took off. It is no surprise, therefore, that in 300 years, the Sriwijaya Empire had successfully reigned supreme over the sea-faring rulers in the region. Islam began to propagate earnestly in Sumatra after the collapse of the Sriwijaya in the 13th century. Palembang soon was occupied by the forces from the Islamic Java. In 1675, Sultan Abdul Rahman established the Sultanate institution in Palembang. His heir, Sultan Mahmud Badaruddin, was instrumental in the construction of this mosque in 1740. Palembang was known as Darussalam, and the advancement of Islam took on a rapid pace than previously. Although the Dutch successfully occupied the territory in 1925, Islam continued to be widely accepted. The influence of non-formal education played a vital role in the propagation of Islam in Palembang during the colonial period. With Islam taking a firm root in Palembang, it also influenced the tradition and way of life of those who live on the banks of the Musi River. Here along the river is where most of the human settlement are concentrated, and a strong tradition still prevails. The town is located on what used to be a mangrove. The level of the river in the town is influenced by the tides in the sea. This has resulted in the town to be under the sea level. These houses are known as lanting. The earliest Malay settlement is found within the vicinity of the Kuwin River. The area is famous of the tale of a Malay headman who united the Malays with the Dayak and Javanese, hence the name Banjarmasin. Banjarmasin is located in Kalimantan. At the confluence of the Kuwin and Barito rivers, there is a famous sandbar in Banjarmasin. Every morning, boats from the upstream would sail past here on the way to the floating market. The town of Banjarmasin was established in 1526, but a real form of governance only took place a century later. The establishment of the government at that time was inspired by the Islam Dema government in Java. The advancement made by Islam also brought changes to the Malays in the 18th century. Banjarmasin is also synonymous with the name Sabilul Muhtadin. Sabilul Muhtadin is the title of the book written by Sheikh Arshad al-Banjari, a renowned Muslim intellectual in the field of writing. Today, this mosque Banjarmasin is named after this famous book, and also as a sign of respect for this acclaimed man. The mosque is situated along the banks of the Martapura River in Banjarmasin. Sheikh Muhammad Arshad came from a village 50 kilometers upstream of the Martapura River. The land across the river was awarded to Sheikh Muhammad Arshad by the Banjar Sultan. When he returned from Mecca in 1772, for 30 years he taught there and also sought to gain religious knowledge. This place is now known as Kampong Dalam Pagar. This mosque is named as Tuhfatul Rakibin, from one of the Malay religious books written by Sheikh Muhammad Arshad. The mosque also served as the original pesantern or school of Sheikh Muhammad Arshad. The descendants of Sheikh Muhammad Arshad still carry on the traditional religious education. Still today, Sabil al-Muhtadin is still used as a curriculum in this madrasa. This famous book touches on the religious obligations according to the teaching of Imam Shafi'i sect. Pesantern, or Indonesia's Islamic institution of education like this, played an important role in propagating Islam in the 18th and 19th century. During the same period too, the role played by the institution of the Sultanate in Southeast Asia is also limited because of the obstacles imposed by Western colonialism. The pesantern education is considered a skin-to-skin education, whereby each individual has to have his reading done in front of the teacher, from the first to the last page. This traditional education still today exists in all districts in the Indonesian archipelagos. In fact, the method of teaching does not differ much from the schools of Islamic education in Malaysia, southern Thailand, Cambodia and Vietnam. The local Islamic intellectuals from centuries ago paved the way for the whole society. A simpler way to appreciate Islam in local language and not relying completely on Arabic books. Indonesia, the world's fourth most populated country with 200 ethnic groups, occupies over 27,000 islands, lived by one slogan, one country, one race and one language. It is no surprise that Islam has spread far and wide throughout Indonesia. Although separated by seas, the different races are united under one faith, making Indonesia the largest Muslim nation in the world.
We shall visit majestic halls, charity houses, archaeological sites of all civilizations here and there. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
Huda, a light in every home.
We shall visit majestic halls.
The Philippines archipelagos consist of 7,000 islands, and they are home to 80 million people speaking over 100 dialects. For 4 centuries, this country was formerly colonized by the Spaniards and later by the Americans. The colonial legacy had vast influence on Filipino way of life. In fact, the Philippines was called after the Spanish on the banks of this river. and it provides sufficient livelihood to the people living nearby. Every day, a hive of activity takes place as the boats laden with agricultural produce and timbers from the hinterland arrive to trade, and they will return home with the essentials to sell. Needless to say, the experience and expertise gained through centuries of sailing eventually gave birth to a competent breed of Malay seafarers. The captivating Lake Lanao in Mindanao was once a fertile ground of Islam under the rule of the Maguindanao Sultanate. Centuries ago, this region was a target of a Spanish attack, King Philip. However, Islamic influence had earlier taken root here. In the 13th century, 3 headmen from Brunei visited the Panay Island to establish the Federation of Madhya, which includes Hantik, Irong, Irong and Aklan. For the first time, calm was restored in these places. When Kalantiao Canon, the Philippines' first written constitution, was introduced. The ruling system was based on Brunei's customs and Islamic laws. However, in 1571, the Spanish colonial master forbade the population from embracing other faiths but not Catholicism. Laws to prevent religious conversion were strictly enforced, and the death sentence was carried out against those who dared to defy. Frightened, the converts escaped from Luzon and took refuge in the Muslim stronghold of Mindanao. However, those who chose to stay suffered immensely, and they were no longer allowed to practice their faith of choice. Before the Spaniards came, this city was ruled by King Sulaiman and King Matanda. Together, they relied on Islamic laws to instill peace and tranquility among their people. Trading was encouraged by Manila became the region's biggest port. However, with the arrival of the Spaniards, they sought to undermine the achievement made by the Malay Sultanate. On top of their agenda was the erasing of all historical evidence relating to the Islamic settlement and its influence. Today, rapid development taking place along the Pasig River only worsened whatever traces of Islam heritage left in the area. The river is far cry from its headache, and occasionally boats still sail through it. Nevertheless, commercial activities are still carried out